Jump in the cold water. You know, every single time you've done some type of cold shower or a cold plunge, it's always just the fear, the anticipation leading up to that moment that dictates your action. But at the end of the day, once you jump in the cold water and you're already in there, you're in the ice bath, you realize it's not that bad. Once you're in there, once you're in the action, you realize it's actually fine. But go back a day, 2 days, a week, 2 weeks, when all you could do was just think about the thing and imagine it. Just try to imagine what it would be like. That's when it's most scary. That's when the fear kicks in, the anticipation gets the best of you. But when you realize, you just slow down and you realize that you can't possibly imagine or anticipate a situation. It's gonna happen and you are gonna act with your present self. What that means is you're gonna act as if you're acting right now. Because the moment you try to project yourself and actions onto the future, like what are you gonna do in this situation when you're talking to the girl? What are you gonna do in that business meeting when you have the exam? You try to imagine these scenarios, you try to project onto the future what you could possibly do, the endless possibilities of how things could actually turn out. But when you just take a step back and you realize that you can only act with your present self, any single action that you take is going to be with yourself in that moment, and you cannot try to change that, you cannot try to control any of that. It's going to happen automatically. Within the blink of an eye, you're just present, you're there. The only thing that's going to spoil the execution is when you're thinking about another time in the future, when you're not present. That's why you have to let yourself be present. Thinking about the past, thinking about the future, is just going to spoil the execution of whatever it is you're doing. It's going to ruin the energy of everything you do on a day-to-day basis. You enter this flow-like state with almost anything. You're talking to the girl, the only time you're going to really fuck that up is when you're thinking too much about the future and the past, and you're not present. But when you're in the flow state, when you're just present, you're just giving and you're getting and you're playing with this energy, you become almost unstoppable. Your character starts to shine through everything. And that's basically the case with absolutely anything you can imagine. So stop imagining, stop thinking about the past and the future and what's going to happen. Realize that when you're in the exam hall writing the exam, it's going to turn out exactly as it's going to turn out. There is no possible way for you to imagine how you're going to perform on the exam. You can only control what you can do behind that, the preparation. But you cannot control anything about yourself in that situation, sitting in that chair, writing the exam. You're gonna do that and do all of those things with the present self in that moment in time, if that makes sense. Like, you're not gonna be able to act now for later. You can only do it and act in the best possible way when you're there, sitting there. Think about anything I can do right now. Let's say I want to write something. Let's say I want to journal. Let's say I want to read. I can only do that with the best of my ability and the best of my performance if I'm present and doing that thing and not thinking about anything else. Let's say I'm journaling right now and I thought about it 2 days ago. I thought about this exact moment where I was sitting down and journaling. I tried to imagine how I would journal, how the pen would write, that I would make it perfect, that I would write the perfect things. But that's all nonsense. The only one thing that's going to determine my performance right now, let me take this, is what I write right now, is the person I am right now, not the person I thought I was going to be 2 days ago. That doesn't even matter. You just realize that you can only act, you can only do anything that you can do with your current self, and your current self is always changing. I cannot act based on the person I thought I was going to be thinking ahead a week ago. It doesn't work like that. So just jump in the cold water, let yourself just flow through life. Realize that the only tough thing is the beginning, just getting into it, starting. The beginning of my YouTube channel, you post a video, you get 2-3 views, you wonder if it's blocked from the For You page, the homepage. You get one comment, it's your mom, and one like, also your mom. And that's just it's just how things go at the beginning. But then slowly you start to have small breakthroughs, compounding wins. And then you see yourself in that light, your self-image improves, and then the progress that you make also improves. And then everything becomes flawless, everything becomes smooth and good going. But everything balances itself out. The beginning, the tough beginning, everything that was bad at the start, it's gonna eventually balance itself out with everything going so smooth and amazing later on down the line. So the tough beginning, the bad beginning is usually balanced out by a good and a smooth going ending. That's the way it works usually. So just jump in the cold water. You have something in your mind, something you want to start, just go in the cold water and you'll see how amazing it is inside. Instead of anticipating and imagining something and having all these thoughts and anticipations, what's gonna happen, what is this, what is that, you're just present and you just do everything that you need to do. You're acting with your current self, and that's the only self you can act with. That's the only self you can take action with, nothing else. You can't possibly predict or imagine anything that's gonna happen tomorrow or after tomorrow. You try to imagine yourself doing that exam, all these scenarios of the way that you're gonna talk to the girl that you like, all the possible ways you're gonna act and talk, and the things you're gonna say in the job interview. But when you're sitting there in front of your interviewer, your future employer, whatever, and he's asking you those questions, you're not gonna be thinking about anything. It's just like, he's gonna ask you a question, You're gonna think and you're gonna respond, not based on any opinions and expectations that you have that, oh, I need to answer properly. No, you need to answer. You don't need to be any type of way. You don't need to be like a suck up to your future boss. That's just an example, you know, but you don't need to suck up to the interviewer. Just be yourself. Just answer. Give an answer. It doesn't matter if this guy doesn't like the answer. It's your answer. Somebody asks you something, your brain filters it and then gives an output based on your experiences, what you know, your knowledge, your IQ, and that is the output that your brain gives. So instead of thinking, oh, is this output good for him? No, this is the output that I thought about. This is the answer that I would usually give. Answer the way you want. Jump in the cold water. When you're there in the interview, you're not going to think about this and that. If you do, then you're just gonna fumble yourself. You're gonna act with the presence you're gonna have later. The same goes with anything. When you're talking to someone, you're not thinking, you're just talking to the person. It just flows. And the moment fear and anticipation just gets the better of you, that is when you start to actually spoil the execution. But otherwise, you're just gonna act flawlessly. Because if you're present, you can honestly do anything. There is no ceiling anymore. There is no limit. You become unstoppable when you are present. So just jump in the cold water. Anything that you imagine yourself and you imagine this is a tough thing to do, or you start to anticipate and think about it, just forget about that. Eliminate this thinking, this incessant need to try to imagine a possible way things could be. Just let go of that and you're gonna be there when you're gonna be there, and you're here where you are now. And it doesn't make sense. It's an easy thing to say and to think you understand, but to truly realize this deeply takes a long process and journey. With myself, I always knew this. You shouldn't anticipate and worry because things are gonna happen. Whatever happens, happens. But then I would still stress about the exam. I would still play out 1,000 scenarios in my mind. Then I would still stress about the girl I wanted to talk to, and I would play out these billion scenarios in my mind. But once you truly realize and you truly just grasp it in your mind and you come to this deep realization, then you stop worrying. You start flowing. You stop thinking and trying to analyze the situation. You just start going with the flow of life, and your energy becomes limitless, and your performance, you actually become better in the things that you do. Fun fact, the less you try to anticipate a situation, the more you're going to be present when you are there, and that is when your performance is also going to be better as a result. So just let yourself be without these expectations. So that's it, just jump in the cold water. So my name is Dan, I make videos like these every single day. If you like these videos, then sub to the channel. Also have a Discord in the description, check that out too. So the world is yours, you got this, bro.